At 106 years old, she's Hollywood's oldest remaining star. She's outlived nearly every legend you can name. She walked through the golden age of cinema, and somehow she's still here, sharper than ever. But how did she get her start? What did she witness behind the scenes? And why has her story stayed mostly untold? Join us as we uncover the remarkable life of Hollywood's oldest living star. Karen Marsh. Karen Marsh-Doll is one of the last living connections to Hollywood's golden age. Born in Los Angeles in 1919, she grew up surrounded by the movie business. Her dream was to dance and act, and by the late 1930s, she was doing just that. Karen got her start in small roles in musicals and comedies, working her way up as a dancer at MGM, which was the biggest studio at the time. She became known not for a starring role, but for something incredibly important behind the scenes. She was Judy Garland's stand-in in The Wizard of Oz. That meant Karen stood on set for lighting and camera tests in place of Judy during long days of filming. This helped the crew get things ready without exhausting the star. It also meant Karen was there during the making of one of the most iconic films of all time. She witnessed all the magic and also the hard work and pressure that Judy Garland faced during that time. Karen continued dancing and acting through the 1940s. Although her roles were usually supporting or background, her graceful dancing and bright screen presence stood out. She was also featured in Presenting Lily Mars and had roles in several more musicals and comedies through the decade. However, her life took a dramatic turn in 1949. While on a flight from Los Angeles to New York for a dance appearance, the plane crashed shortly after takeoff. Karen was one of the few survivors. The crash left her with severe injuries, and she had to undergo 15 surgeries over many months. Doctors were not sure she would ever walk again, but Karen was determined. She worked hard in recovery and eventually learned to walk and even dance again. Still, the crash ended her acting career. In her personal life, Karen married Bill Dahl, a well-known Hollywood publicist. Bill represented some of the biggest names in show business, including Judy Garland and Elvis Presley. It's an interesting connection, especially since Karen had already worked closely with Garland years earlier. There were whispers in Hollywood that working for Garland was not easy, and tensions often ran high. Karen never spoke poorly of Judy, but it's likely she saw and heard plenty, both on set and through her husband's work. Bill Dahl's career also placed the couple right in the middle of Hollywood's inner circle, and they socialized with many major stars during the 1950s and 60s. Despite the tragedy she endured, Karen never turned away from the arts. In fact, she used her experience to help others. She became a certified dance therapist and spent decades teaching movement to people recovering from injuries, seniors, and children with disabilities. Her work helped many regain strength and confidence through dance. It was her way of turning her pain into something meaningful. Even more incredible, Karen kept dancing into her hundreds. At age 100, she performed at a local senior center and gave interviews about her Hollywood years with charm and humor. She credits her longevity to movement, a healthy lifestyle, and staying positive. She still gives talks at film festivals, sharing memories of MGM's golden years and the stars she knew. She has said that being part of The Wizard of Oz is something she's always been proud of, even if it was from the shadows. And speaking of survivors, the next star on our list once played trumpet with legends and partied with the Rat Pack. Stay tuned. Ray Anthony. Ray Anthony is one of the last true living legends of the big band era. At 103 years old, he's still known as a master trumpeter and the leader of one of the most successful dance bands in American music history. His life is filled with music, movie stars, and more than a few personal ups and downs. Ray was born in Pennsylvania, but raised in Cleveland, Ohio. He started playing the trumpet when he was a child, showing talent early on. As a teenager, he was already performing with local bands. By the time he was in his 20s, he had joined one of the most famous groups of all time, the Glenn Miller Orchestra. That group was at the top of the charts during the 1940s and played for troops during World War II. Today, Ray is the only surviving member of the Glenn Miller Band, which makes him a direct link to one of the most important parts of American music history. After the war, Ray didn't slow down. He formed the Ray Anthony Orchestra, and it became a massive success during the late 1940s and 1950s. His group was known for smooth dance music, big horns, and catchy rhythms. One of his most famous recordings was the theme to Dragnet, a popular police drama on TV. The song was a hit and helped bring big band music into the television age. He also recorded the theme to Peter Gunn, another well-known show, and many other tracks that were used on radio and in clubs around the country. Ray didn't just make music. He also stepped into Hollywood. He acted in a few films, including Daddy Longlegs with Fred Astaire. Behind the scenes, he worked with and played for major stars, including Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Marilyn Monroe. These weren't just professional connections. Ray was known to be part of the nightlife crowd that surrounded the Rat Pack, a group of entertainers who dominated the Hollywood party scene in the 1950s and early 1960s. He performed at clubs in Las Vegas and Los Angeles and often attended glamorous events. In his personal life, Ray's most famous relationship was with actress and bombshell Mamie Van Doren. They got married in 1955 and quickly became one of the most talked about couples in Hollywood. Mamie was one of the top sex symbols of the time, and known for her bold personality. Their relationship was passionate, but also full of tension. In later interviews, Mamie accused Ray of being controlling during their marriage. She claimed he didn't want her to take on certain movie roles or appear in public without his approval. They divorced in 1961, and the split was widely covered in gossip columns. During his big band years, Ray was rumored to have had several affairs. Being in the spotlight and traveling constantly put a strain on his personal life. While there are no confirmed details about these relationships, it's clear that Ray lived a fast-paced and glamorous lifestyle. His name was often seen in Hollywood party reports, and he was close to many powerful figures in the music and film worlds. Even outside of performing, Ray stayed active in the music business. In the mid-1950s, he launched his own label called Anthony Records, which gave him more control over the music he released. Around the same time, he also hosted his own TV show, The Ray Anthony Show, which featured live performances and guest stars. It was one of the first TV programs to showcase live big band music. Next up is a starlet who walked away from the spotlight at her peak, but her film noir legacy lives on. Jacqueline White. Jacqueline White is one of the few remaining stars from Hollywood's classic film noir era. At 103 years old, she has lived through the golden days of cinema, stepped away at the height of her fame, and built a full life beyond the screen. Her story is one of talent, timing, and a surprising decision to trade in Hollywood for home life. Jacqueline was born in Beverly Hills, California, in 1921. She grew up in the heart of the movie world, but her path to fame started in college. She studied at UCLA, where she was classmates with several future Hollywood stars. Her beauty and grace stood out, and she was discovered by a talent scout during her time at school. Soon after, she was signed to MGM, one of the biggest studios in Hollywood. She later moved to RKO Pictures, another major name in the industry. In the 1940s, Jacqueline's career took off. She quickly earned a reputation as a reliable and captivating actress, especially in film noir, a style of movie known for mystery, crime, and strong emotions. Her most famous roles came in The Narrow Margin and Crossfire. Both are considered classics today. In Crossfire, she played the wife of a soldier caught up in a murder case. The movie tackled serious issues, including anti-Semitism, and was nominated for multiple Oscars. In the narrow margin, she played a mysterious woman being protected from gangsters on a train. These roles allowed her to show depth and intelligence, and she held her own alongside big names like Robert Mitchum and William Holden. Though Jacqueline never became a top-tier star like some of her peers, she was admired for her quiet strength and screen presence. Directors appreciated her professionalism, and she often played the good woman in a world of dangerous men and dark secrets. Her film career was steady, and she appeared in over 20 films between the early 1940s and early 1950s. But just when her career could have taken the next step, Jacqueline made a surprising choice. She walked away from Hollywood. In the early 1950s, she married Bruce Anderson, a successful businessman. After getting married, Jacqueline decided to leave acting and focus on her family. It was a big shift. She had gone from playing smart, tough women in crime dramas to raising 5 children in a quiet, private life. While many actresses stayed in the spotlight, Jacqueline chose a path of peace and privacy. She stepped out of public view and lived a life far removed from the one she portrayed on screen. Even though she left acting long ago, Jacqueline has remained connected to the film community. She occasionally gives interviews, mostly about her time working in noir films. She speaks warmly about her co-stars and has a sharp memory when it comes to details from the set. In 2021, at the age of 99, she made a virtual appearance at the Turner Classic Movies Film Festival. Fans were thrilled to see her and hear her stories about working with legends like Mitchum and Holden. What makes Jacqueline White's story so unique is that she had a successful Hollywood career and then gave it all up on her own terms. She wasn't pushed out or forgotten, she chose a different life. Now, at 103, she's one of the last living actresses from that era, and her memories are like a time capsule from a world that no longer exists. Up next is a graceful Oscar winner who once ran with Brando and Hitchcock. Don't miss it. Eva Marie Saint. Eva Marie Saint is a rare kind of Hollywood star, graceful, talented, and still going strong at 101. With a career that has lasted over 7 decades, she's known for unforgettable roles, a long-lasting marriage, and a spotless reputation in an industry where drama is often the norm. Her life and career are filled with major moments, and she remains one of the most respected actresses from classic Hollywood. Eva was born in Newark, New Jersey in 1924. She started acting in college at Bowling Green State University and got her professional start on radio dramas in the 1940s. Back then, radio shows were hugely popular, and her voice work led to roles on live television as well. Her early success in TV caught the attention of Hollywood producers. Her big breakthrough came in 1954 when she starred in On the Waterfront, opposite Marlon Brando. The film is a gritty story about corruption and violence among dock workers. Brando played a troubled ex-boxer, and Eva played Edie Doyle, the sister of a murdered worker. It was her first film role, and she won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. That's not common for a debut performance. Her quiet strength and emotional honesty in the role made a huge impression. Working with Brando, however, wasn't always easy. He was one of the most famous method actors of the time, known for staying in character and being unpredictable on set. There were some tensions between the cast and crew during filming. Eva later said that while she respected Brando's talent, his intensity could be overwhelming. Still, their scenes together are considered some of the most powerful in film history. A few years later, Eva took on another iconic role, this time as a classic Hitchcock blonde in North by Northwest. She played opposite Cary Grant in a suspense thriller that still ranks among Alfred Hitchcock's best. Eva played Eve Kendall, a mysterious woman with secrets of her own. Her cool, confident performance helped her stand out, even among other famous Hitchcock blondes like Grace Kelly and Kim Novak. There were whispers of rivalry between Eva and other actresses who worked with Hitchcock. Grace Kelly, in particular, had become Hitchcock's favorite, and some said he tried to shape Eva in a similar way. But Eva held her ground and made the role her own. Unlike Kelly, who left acting to become a princess, Eva kept working, but she always avoided the gossip and scandal that surrounded many of her peers. In her personal life, Eva was just as steady. She married television director Jeffrey Hayden in 1951, and they stayed married until his death in 2016, 65 years together, which is almost unheard of in Hollywood. They had 2 children and built a life that balanced fame with family. There are no reports of affairs, breakups, or drama. By all accounts, it was a happy, supportive partnership. Next, we'll meet a beloved TV mom who's still full of spark at nearly 100. Let's keep going. June Lockhart. June Lockhart is best known as the smart, caring TV mom from shows like Lassie and Lost in Space, but her career spans far beyond those iconic roles. Now, 100 years old, she remains a favorite among fans of classic television and science fiction. Her life has included early fame, Hollywood rumors, some behind-the-scenes tension, and a deep connection to both acting and space exploration. June was born into a showbiz family in New York City in 1925. Her father, Gene Lockhart, was a respected character actor, and her mother, Kathleen Lockhart, also acted. June's very first film role was in A Christmas Carol, where she appeared alongside both her parents. That experience set the stage for what would become a long and successful acting career. In the 1940s, she continued acting in films, with credits in movies like Sergeant York and Meet Me in St. Louis. But her big break came not in film, but on television. June truly became a household name in the 1950s when she joined the cast of Lassie as Ruth Martin, the loving and capable mother of young Timmy. Her role on the show was central to its success. She brought warmth and intelligence to the part, never overplaying it. From 1958 to 1964, she helped make Lassie one of the most beloved family shows on television. After Lassie, June took on a very different maternal role in Lost in Space. She played Dr. Maureen Robinson, a scientist and mother, which was quite progressive for the time. She wasn't just baking cookies, she was working side by side with her husband and children as they faced dangers in space. This role helped cement her as a pop culture icon, especially among science fiction fans. Behind the scenes, though, things weren't always smooth. Rumors have long swirled about on-set tension between June and some of her Lost in Space co-stars. Child actor Billy Mumy, who played her son Will Robinson, has hinted in interviews that June could be a little tough at times. He has said that while she was a professional, she sometimes clashed with other cast members over scenes and screen time. Some say she had a strong personality and wasn't afraid to speak up about how things were going. In her personal life, June married twice. Her first husband was an architect named John Lindsay, and they had 2 daughters. The couple divorced in 1959. She later married another man, but that marriage also ended in divorce. Though never confirmed, June was linked romantically to several Hollywood actors during the 1950s and 60s. Some gossip columns hinted at flings with leading men she worked with, but June has always kept that side of her life very private. The rumors may never be proven, but they added a little mystery to her otherwise wholesome image. What's really fascinating about June is how deeply she connected with science and space. Thanks to her role in Lost in Space, she became a real-life supporter of NASA. Over the years, she was invited to attend several shuttle launches and even visited Mission Control. She was inducted into the Space Foundation's Hall of Fame, a rare honor for someone outside the scientific community. Her love for space has remained strong throughout her life. She also has 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. one for film and one for television. Very few actors can say that. Even into her 90s, June stayed active. She's done voice work, made convention appearances, and taken part in panels celebrating the shows that made her famous. Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks is one of the most important and funniest people in Hollywood history. And at 99 years old, he's still sharp, funny, and working. He's the rare kind of entertainer who's not only loved by fans, but also deeply respected by his peers. From writing jokes for Sid Caesar in the early days of television to creating some of the boldest comedies ever made, Mel's career spans over 70 years, and he hasn't slowed down. Mel was born Melvin Kaminsky in Brooklyn, New York. He was the youngest of 4 boys and grew up poor after his father died when Mel was just 2 years old. As a kid, he was small, sickly, and often bullied, but he quickly learned that making people laugh was his way in. After serving in the U.S. Army during World War II, he came back to New York and started working in comedy. His first big break came in the 1950s when he joined the writing team for Your Show of Shows, starring Sid Caesar. That show was a major training ground for comedy legends. Mel worked alongside Carl Reiner, Neil Simon, and Larry Gelbart. The jokes were fast, clever, and written live each week, a crash course in writing under pressure. Mel stood out for his quick wit and crazy characters. He and Carl Reiner even started doing a routine for fun in the office that became The 2,000-Year-Old Man, a sketch that turned into records and live performances. But Mel didn't stop at TV. He had much bigger ideas. In 1967, he wrote and directed The Producers, a film about a crooked Broadway producer who tries to make a surefire flop called Springtime for Hitler. The movie was outrageous, controversial, and absolutely hilarious. It won Mel an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay and launched his movie directing career. Mel often clashed with studio executives and censors. Blazing Saddles, for example, almost didn't get released because of its language and jokes about racism. The studio made him cut several scenes, but Mel stood firm on keeping the core of the film intact. He didn't care about being safe. He cared about making something honest and funny, and that attitude made him a legend. Behind the scenes, Mel was just as interesting. He married actress Anne Bancroft in 1964, and they stayed together until her death in 2005. Anne was a respected, Oscar-winning actress, known for dramatic roles like The Graduate, while Mel was the wild comic genius. They were total opposites on the surface, but deeply in love. Together, they were a Hollywood power couple who supported each other's work and raised a son, Max Brooks, who is now a successful author. After Anne's passing, there was speculation about Mel dating again, but nothing was ever confirmed. He's mostly kept his private life quiet in recent years. However, in the 1970s, Mel was known for his social side. He often hosted wild parties with his close friends, including Carl Reiner, Gene Wilder, and Dom DeLuise. They would gather to eat, laugh, and try to out-joke each other late into the night. Mel's connection to Gene Wilder was especially strong. They made 3 films together, The Producers, Blazing Saddles, and Young Frankenstein, and became one of the greatest comedy partnerships in film history. Even years later, Mel often spoke emotionally about Gene after his passing, calling him a sweet, caring, funny man. Even in his 90s, Mel hasn't disappeared. He provided voice work for the Hotel Transylvania movies and made appearances on talk shows. He's also known for prank calling his friends just to make them laugh. Conan O'Brien has told stories about getting surprise calls from Mel where he pretends to be different characters or gives ridiculous advice. In fact, Mel is one of the few people to achieve EGOT status, meaning he's won an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Award. Very few artists have done that. His career spans television, film, theater, and music, and he's won the highest honors in all of them. What makes Mel Brooks so special is that he never let time slow him down. He's still writing, still cracking jokes, and still showing up to events. His timing is as sharp as ever, and his energy at nearly 100 is something fans admire deeply. Dick Van Dyke. Dick Van Dyke is one of the most beloved entertainers of all time, and at 99 years old, he's still performing, still dancing, and still surprising audiences. Known for his charm, physical comedy, and endless energy, Van Dyke has had one of the most impressive and enduring careers in Hollywood history. From black and white television to viral TikTok videos, he's remained relevant for over 7 decades. Van Dyke's rise to fame started on television in the early 1960s. He was cast as the lead in The Dick Van Dyke Show, playing Rob Petrie, a TV comedy writer juggling work and family life. The show, created by Carl Reiner, became a huge hit and is still considered one of the greatest sitcoms of all time. It showcased Dick's perfect mix of timing, movement, and likability. Audiences loved how funny and down-to-earth he was, and his chemistry with co-star Mary Tyler Moore made the show even more special. Just a few years later, he became a movie star with Mary Poppins. Playing the lovable chimney sweep Bert, Van Dyke sang, danced, and pulled off some of the most memorable scenes in Disney history. Though his Cockney accent was widely criticized and even joked about by Van Dyke himself, his performance became iconic. He followed that with Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, another musical fantasy film that became a favorite for generations of kids. He had a special way of making people smile and still does. But his personal life wasn't always as joyful as his performances. Van Dyke married his first wife, Margie Willett, in 1948. They had 4 children together and were married for over 3 decades. But behind the scenes, their marriage faced serious issues. Both struggled with addiction. Margie battled prescription drug dependency, while Dick became addicted to alcohol. In the 1970s, Van Dyke publicly admitted to being an alcoholic and checked himself into rehab. He's talked openly about how difficult that time was. The pressure of being a public figure, along with personal problems at home, made things tough. He said that performing helped him cope, but it wasn't enough. With professional help and the support of others, he eventually overcame his addiction. His marriage to Margie ended in divorce in 1984, after they had both been involved in separate affairs. Soon after, Van Dyke entered into a long-term relationship with Michelle Triola, an actress who was famously involved in a legal case against her former partner, actor Lee Marvin. Dick and Michelle never married, but they were together for more than 30 years until her death in 2009. He has called her one of the great loves of his life. Then, in 2012, Van Dyke surprised everyone when he married Arlene Silver, a makeup artist 46 years younger than him. The age gap sparked headlines, but Van Dyke brushed it off. The two met at an event in 2006 and became friends before falling in love. He says Arlene brought a new joy and energy into his life. She's often seen dancing and singing alongside him in videos, and fans adore their sweet relationship. Despite his age, Van Dyke hasn't slowed down. He went viral on TikTok for videos of him singing and dancing at home with Arlene. In 2022, he made a surprise appearance at the Kennedy Center Honors, performing live and still moving like a man half his age. He also shocked viewers when he appeared on The Masked Singer in 2023 at the age of 97. Dressed as the gnome, he sang and joked, and when he took off the mask, the audience erupted in cheers and tears. Whether he's tripping over an ottoman, dancing with penguins, or simply flashing that big smile, Dick Van Dyke has given audiences happiness and hope for generations. Want more true stories from classic Hollywood? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos on iconic stars, forgotten scandals, and the fascinating lives behind the cameras.